Welcome to MCN and what you could call a continuation of our 2025 sports middleweight naked test. Now back then, if you've seen the video, we pitched all the latest and greatest of 2025. We had a Ducati Street Fighter V2, we had the Triumph Street Triple 765 RS, and we had this, the Yamaha MT-09 SP. Now, there was one bike that was conspicuous by its absence, and that was the KTM Duke 990R. The reason was because at that time, as we all know, KTM were trying to dig themselves out of a financial hole, which we're really happy they have thanks to Bajaj. So last year, I was standing here in exactly the same place, and we're going to be riding exactly the same roads, and the Yamaha was our favourite. So today's job is to see how the KTM compares to the Yamaha and see if that could get the crown of being our favourite sports middleweight naked. So let's recap about what makes the Yamaha tick. So the MT-09 has been out for a squillion years now. This particular version, the MT-09 SP, this evolution came out last year. 890cc, 3-cylinder engine, 117 bhp. This costs about £11,600. And the thing that makes it an SP is its fancy brakes, Öhlins rear shock, lots of nice little detailing, and that kind of classic R1 SP derived black, silver and blue paint job. Now over to the KTM. We haven't seen a lot of this on video before, although MCN did the launch of the KTM 990 Duke, the standard one, when it came out a couple of years ago. So this starts life as a 990 Duke. So it's got a bigger bore, longer stroke than the 890 it replaces. The standard 990 has got 121 bhp, but this being the R is altogether a little bit racier. So it's 128 bhp, it's going to cost you £12,999. And then talking about those electronics, standard when you buy this bike from the shop, you'll get the kitchen sink thrown at it electronics wise, but thanks to demo mode, they all disappear at about 900 odd miles. And then you need to pay up to nearly £1,000 to get them all reinstated again. Although you don't have to have them all, you can mix and match. But obviously you want all the electronics, so you're really looking at close to 13 grand for this bike. Chassis wise, it's got fully adjustable suspension. You can kind of think of the chassis as being the same as the 990 RCR. So it's got a linkage, a rear suspension linkage, fully adjustable WP suspension. The whole bike sits 15mm higher, so that makes it lighter to turn at speed. You've got better weight transfer, more ground clearance, bigger brakes and bigger brake discs, and this wears fancy pants Brembo styler calipers. And also this has got an 8.8-inch colour TFT dash, which was first seen on the RCR as well. You'll notice that we haven't brought the full set of bikes along, so there's no Ducati Street Fighter V2 here, and there's no Triumph Street Triple 765 RS, and that's simply because they haven't changed for 2026. So we're just talking about the winner of last year's test against the new breed. But it is also worth mentioning that Triumph have brought out a new Street Triple 765. It's called the RX. And we've ridden that already this year. You'll be able to see the video on that one. And the difference between the RX and the RS that it's based on is really what's going on at the front end. So it's got clip-ons, although they're not under the yokes, they're above the yokes, so they're relatively comfortable. Öhlins forks, chunky milled aluminium top yoke, and slightly more aggressive steering geometry. That bike is fantastic. The fact that you're a little bit more over the front, the steering's much crisper, it's got a beautiful front end, but it's not really like for like with these. The fact that these are more upright and they've got straight bars, you wouldn't be comparing apples with apples. So we haven't got that in our test. If we'd have put the RS in the test, it would have still scored the same as it did last year, and it was behind the Yamaha. So really we're just refining it down to the two kind of bikes we're most interested in 2026. So enough waffle, let's jump on board the Yamaha and remind ourselves why we thought it was so good. It's good to be back. I wasn't always the biggest fan of the Yamaha MT-09. The early iterations, the geometry was a little bit out. It was quite high at the front, quite low at the back, quite soft and bouncy at the back. Understeered a bit, a little bit unstable at speed, but Yamaha have gradually refined it over the years, and it's just beautiful now. And granted, if you do push this hard, it still can get a tiny bit flighty, but you could adjust that out with the suspension and also with kind of more modern generation tyres. As it is, it's super refined, and you know, that's why we decided to give it the title of Britain's best B-road bike last year. In terms of refinement, the engine's really friendly, the throttle's nice and soft, the gearbox is nice and springy and accurate, the quick shifter works beautifully, it's comfortable, the ride quality is not too harsh, it's just very, very friendly. And although this is designed to be very sporty, and it has got quite an aggressive side if you wanted to have, just very easy to live with. It's got a very wide operating window, so if you want to just go down to the shops, it's easy. If you just want to take a nice slow trundle through a B road like this, it's easy. It's physically big enough we could go touring on it. Put a pillion on the back, although that would be a little bit of a squeeze. But overall, it's just very, very friendly, very together, very Yamaha. You know, there's nothing on this bike that's got any spiky edges at all. Everything works so well. You know, the dash is nice, gives you all the information you need. This has got aftermarket or accessory heated grips, so that's nice on a day like today. The only thing I'm not too keen on is Yamaha have put some official accessories on this bike. You've got milled aluminium levers, clutch and brake. You've got rear sets, which are kind of nice to look at, but they just feel a little bit too chunky and a bit too blocky. I much prefer the standard stuff, so don't waste your money on them. You'll even see race bikes with quite standard looking levers. You don't need to have all the kind of the thrills that this has got. But that's not really a criticism, because that's not how the bike's been designed in the first place. So it's very refined. That's a big tick. But it's also a fiery middleweight sports naked as well. So it's got some proper punch. You know, it's got 117 bhp, which may not seem like a lot on paper, but it is a lot in the real world. You know, you can fire out of second and third gear corners very swiftly. The wheelie control has got its work cut out when you're doing things like that. The wheelie control's turned off on this bike for some reason. I'm told that it does really good wheelies off the clutch in second and third. It's very balanced. You've got a fantastic engine note, that 3-cylinder triple Triumph-esque engine note. Brakes on this, fantastic. Loads of feel, loads of power. You know, the Japanese are definitely getting their head around cornering ABS now, where their early systems, like on the 15R1, weren't very nice at all. Just no feel, very wooden. But the brakes on this are superb. It's very agile. The suspension's compliant, it's controlled. You know, if you have a good old fiddle with this, it'd be really, really good fun on a track day. But as it is on these B roads, it's absolutely lovely. It gives you loads of confidence. It's just easy. Everything about this bike is refined and easy. Plus it's got a lovely soundtrack. It's fast, it's agile, it's fun. There's not a lot it can't do. Right, so here we are on the KTM, as you can tell from a few little orangey bits in the screen and this huge dash. You know, they're both on paper very similar bikes, but honestly they couldn't be more different. They are chalk and cheese. You know, you've got quite a lumpy V-twin like parallel twin on the KTM, and a lot smoother, kind of friendly, soft triple on the Yamaha. But everything about this KTM just screams ready to race, funny enough. As it says on the dash, it feels like a race bike by comparison. You're sat quite high up because the whole bike's lifted up by 15 mil, like we said. The suspension is very stiff, there's not a lot of give in it. I like the riding position. It's very, very roomy for a tall rider, so I really like that. I like the bar position. I like the peg to seat distance. You know, the seat for small distances is relatively comfortable. Mirrors are pretty good, but I've got to say this feels a lot like a supermoto, just like a slightly more practical supermoto. You just feel like all it wants to do is go fast and play, and it does that very, very well. The KTM have built an extreme Sunday morning scratcher, like a proper B-road blaster, uncompromising. And if you view this bike as that, it does no wrong. So, you know, if that's the kind of bike you want, this will not disappoint. The handling is just very, very crisp, very direct. The brakes are just superb. The engine's super powerful, loads and loads of grunt, but it is uncompromising. The ride quality is a lot harsher than the Yamaha. The engine is a lot more brutal when you tap the throttle. Brakes are stronger. Tyres, I mentioned this before in the previous video on this bike. For these cold temperatures, which is 12 degrees now, they don't really get up to temperature unless you start pushing them quite hard. And in actual fact, you'll be able to read about this group test in MCN and Bike magazine, and my fellow road testers who are riding it for those print tests unfortunately had quite bad conditions and rain, and they said that this bike really wasn't nice in the rain. It was too aggressive. They had to turn the riding modes down to rain just to make the engine a little bit calmer, and they couldn't get any heat in the tyres at all. You know, there's no proper grooves in the tyre for the wet, and the compound itself isn't very friendly in the cold. So, you know, if you were going to get this bike and you were going to use it in colder conditions, I definitely recommend changing the tyres from these Michelin Power Puck 2s. The other thing, as you can see, and as I've also mentioned before in a previous video, this dash is huge. This kind of big long landscape dash kind of reminds me of my old mate's Hillman Avenger with a speedo going long ways like that, or the film Duel when the car's being chased by a truck. But it's kind of OTT on a bike like this. It'd be absolutely amazing on a more touring related bike, but you know, basically this is a bike to be enjoyed on a couple of hours on a Sunday morning, and I don't really think it needs such an elaborate dash. As good as it is, it's touchscreen, It's got sat-nav built into it. It's got loads of colour pictorials. It's an impressive bit of kit, but it's just there in your face all the time. Almost distracting. But when the KTM wants to play, it is superb. This is probably the most extreme middleweight sports naked that you can buy. It's uncompromising. It's easily as fun as a proper super naked on a B road. Probably more so because it's smaller and more agile. But it's definitely got a one-track mind. Very, very niche. If you're gonna buy this bike just for normal everyday riding, you're not going to be able to use or appreciate its talents, but you'll be left with a lot of its downsides, with it being so kind of stiff and aggressive. But when the planets align and you've got a nice hot bit of road in front of you, nice tyres up to temperature, it is a lot of fun. It is amazing fun. So, KTM, we're very, very glad it does exist. Almost nearly didn't happen because of all of their woes, and it wasn't in last year's group test, but I mean, wow, what a bike. This bike is, I guess you'd describe it as the distilled essence of what a super naked is. If you want kind of the ultimate B-road grin, then you can't go far wrong with this bike. The handling is crisp, the braking power is superb. You know, you just can't get near the limit of its handling on the road. The engine's bombastic, it's got loads of torque, it's kind of easy to manage, it's got all the electronics on it to a point, big screen. So it really is an impressive bike, but it's extremely single-minded. So if you just want a bike for that purpose of having fun on a Sunday, this is the bike for you, no doubt at all. But if you want to use your sports naked for other things as well, then the MT-09 SP is still the best all-rounder, and as a result of that, it's still the winner of our test. It may not be quite as sharp as the KTM, but because it's so much more kind of involving and accessible, you'd probably end up riding it quicker anyway, just because it's softer and it talks to you more. And these Bridgestone S23 tyres warm up a lot quicker than the Michelins on this. I think if I was riding in these conditions more often, I'd definitely change the tyres, because a few times today, it's actually been in my mind that I've got to be careful, especially on the front, in case the front folds. And that's not the kind of feeling you want on your road bike. In the summer, on a nice mountain road or around a racetrack, it'd be a different story, and you can change tyres. So it's almost not fair talking about tyres when we talk about these two bikes, but the Yamaha is just so much more friendly. It's still got teeth. The soundtrack is still phenomenal. It's got loads of torque. It's a nice long revving engine, as opposed to the KTM, which is quite short revving. It's easy to bang into the rev limiter until you're used to its character. The dash is a sensible size. It does everything you want. It's got all the electronics, handles beautifully. It's just a wonderful bike, and it's a fair chunk cheaper than the KTM, especially if you go for all the electronics on the KTM. So the Yamaha still wins our test. It's a phenomenal bike. You know, this is just every bit as good as a big super naked, unless you were going to take a pillion or do loads and loads of miles on it. But in terms of an absolutely fun bike, the Yamaha is an easy winner. In terms of how the KTM would have done against the bikes that we had last year, it's definitely racier than the Ducati, although they're kind of in the same vein. The Ducati only really made sense when you kind of pushed it hard because it was quite a stiff bike, but the Ducati was nowhere near as playful as the KTM. And then compared to the Triumph, well, the Triumph kind of comes closer to the Yamaha in terms of his all-roundedness. So if I had to put all of them in an order, it would definitely be the Yamaha is still top. I'd have the Triumph second. And then as for the KTM and the Ducati, they'd be fighting for kind of the last spot, which sounds unfair, but I'd probably put the KTM ahead of the Ducati, just because when the planets align, this bike is so much fun. So that was a great little comparison test there. I enjoyed it loads. If you ever get the chance to ride bikes like these, I wholeheartedly would encourage you. But if you enjoyed this test, please like and subscribe. and we'll see you again very soon.